Hello, my name's Andy Beaton. I live and observe in downtown Toronto, and I'm here to talk to you about what's coming up in the sky this month. People who have been through my talks before are probably familiar with this list: the big picture, key dates, the moon, planets, something in the deep sky, a double star, a variable star, and whatever's coming up in the world of spaceflight. So I start off with the big picture. This is what the sky is going to look like tonight around 9, once it gets dark, assuming that it's not too cloudy. Our favorite summer constellations are starting to drift away into the sunset. We still have a view of the summer Milky Way. It'll be up for a few hours yet. So if you're doing your summer Messier list, that's still available for you. By the time we get around to our next meeting, if we get up early in the morning and look to the east, this is what we're going to see. We're going to see all our favorite winter constellations coming up. Gemini, Orion, Cancer, even Leo just before dawn. And we'll have a nice parade of planets as well. So we're at the time of year where nights are getting longer. Good news for photographers who want that nice long stretch of darkness. Tonight, Astronomical Twilight ends around 9:12 and starts again at 4:45 in the morning. This is all Eastern Daylight Time. And by the next meeting, Twilight ends at 8:10 in the evening. It'll be dark after that, and start again at 5:25 in the morning. So a lot more observing time coming up. So important dates coming up. The autumn equinox is on September 23rd. The new moon is on September 15th. Moon will be at apogee, which is furthest, on September 12th, and then perigee on the 28th. And I always encourage people to take pictures of the moon on those two dates with the same equipment, and you can compare the size, the apparent size of the moon in the sky. Full moon is on September 29th. On September 16th, the moon will be occulting Mars. And Venus will be at its maximum brightness on September 19th, where it reaches a ridiculous negative 4.8 magnitude. So the moon, first quarter is coming up on the 22nd, full moon on the 29th. Last quarter is tonight, and the new moon will be on September 15th. Lunar X will be visible on September 21st, and for those who have not seen or heard of it, there are a pair of craters on the moon that when the sun is at just the right angle, the rims of the craters are illuminated, making an apparent X in the darkness on the moon. It's actually a pretty cool thing to see. I would recommend at least seeing it once. And the lunar straight wall on the evening of September 24th, that'll be at its most visible. If you're looking for it in any kind of atlas, it's called Rupus Recta officially, but everybody calls it the lunar straight wall. So we got planets. Everybody loves planets. Mid-month, Mercury will be showing up in the morning. Apparently, it's going to be the best morning appearance of the year. So if you're a morning person, this will be your best chance to see it. Also in the morning, Venus, extremely bright and visible throughout the month. If you're up and looking to the east, you can't mistake it. There's nothing else that looks like Venus. Mars is getting close to the sun, but on the 16th, it will be occulted by the moon. However, it's close enough to the sun that I advise people to use extreme caution in looking for it. And actually, now that I think about it, don't look for it. It's close to the sun. If you bump your telescope, you could damage your telescope, you could damage your eyes. So don't do it. When I'm legally covered, if you look for it, it's not my fault. Saturn and Jupiter. Jupiter rises around 10, and it's absolutely outstanding. It's nice and big, it's bright, it's got interesting moons, it's got weather. I might have seen the Great Red Spot a couple of weeks ago. I can't be sure, but I can convince myself that I did. Saturn comes up just after, actually Saturn comes up even before. It rises around dusk and it's up all night. It's an even better placed planet to observe, and it's got those spectacular rings. If you have a chance to get your telescope out, this is an outstanding time to be looking for everybody's favorite gas giants. Uranus and Neptune up in the same crowd. Uranus is in Aries and rises not long after Jupiter, also visible all night. Neptune, halfway between Jupiter and Saturn. I was looking at those a couple of weeks ago and trying to decide which one was bluer and which was greener, and I honestly couldn't tell. I invite everybody else to go and have a look, compare them, and pop into one of the forums and let us know what you think. This should be dwarf planetary highlights. I know they're not real planets. Pluto's in Capricornus, and it's heading for sunset. So if you're going to try and see it this year, move fast. It should be manageable for probably this month, but not much longer. Ceres is in Virgo and sets before twilight is done. I think we're probably not going to see much more of it. I don't know, maybe you'll be able to see it, but you're not going to be able to get a good view of it. I always like to throw in a bit of deep sky stuff, something to encourage people to go out and look for it. I've picked a M33, the Triangulum Galaxy this month, a 6th magnitude galaxy, and you never guess where. It's in Triangulum. Detectable to the naked eye under dark skies. I can confirm that. I've seen it, and my vision's not great, so if I've seen it, you could too. Binoculars, it's easy. And it's not far away from our fellow member of the local group, the Andromeda Galaxy M31. It'd be an interesting experiment to go and compare the two, which one seems brighter, which one seems larger. M33 is intrinsically a much smaller galaxy, but an awful lot of the Andromeda Galaxy is faint and hard to see, so it's an experiment. And that's what it looks like. And it really looks like a spiral galaxy. With a big enough telescope, you are going to see those cool spiral arms. Now, I know a lot of the people here are more advanced observers, and they've seen M33, so we can dig out some more challenging activities for them, try imaging it in the various bandwidths that the filters allow nowadays. H-alpha, I think, is an interesting one. If we just pop back here for a second, look at those red splotches. Those are giant emission nebulas in M33, and they're just begging to be imaged. And with a good filter, you can probably do it in the city as well. It's close enough that with a reasonably large telescope, you should be able to find globular clusters. You can find NGC 604, which is a 12th magnitude nebula inside M33. It's that big bright one down to the bottom left. You should be able to manage it with, I don't know, an 8-inch or larger telescope. And of course, it's long overdue for a supernova. We should be getting supernovae on a regular basis in nearby galaxies, and I haven't seen one in a long time. So if you want to join a supernova observing watch, they have them online. You can sign up, and they'll give you a list of galaxies to check out, and you can participate in research and science that way. So comets and meteors, we have the Orionids coming up, September 26th all the way to November 22nd. The peak is October 21st, where we get 23 meteors an hour. That's well out of the next month, but we're going to get some of them before the next meeting, so I threw that in there. We don't have any other major showers coming up soon. Minor showers, we have the September Epsilon Perseids and the Southern Taurids. Those ones we're looking between 2 and 5 meteors an hour. It won't be spectacular. And I've thrown in a couple of meteor dribbles. These are 1 or 2 meteors an hour, the September Lyncids, the Chi Cygnids, and the daytime Sextantids. I wouldn't even step out of the door to look for them. The odds of seeing one are extremely low. But if you are out observing and you do see a good-looking meteor, and you can trace its path back to one of those locations, then you'll be able to put down one of these very minor meteor showers on your lifetime checklist. Comets, Nishimura C2023 P1, I guess, is the best comet we've got going right now. It is quite bright, 7.4 magnitude in Leo, but it is getting close to the sun. So I think we're going to have a few days where we have a decent chance of seeing it if it's clear. After that, it's going to be gone until it gets around to the other side. And I think when it gets around to the other side, it's going to be showing up in the southern hemisphere rather than up here. We have a few others, T4 Lemon, V2 ZTF, and K5 Pan-STARRS. None of them are particularly spectacular, but if you like hunting comets, there's some targets for you. If you've never seen a comet, it's worth tracking down and track them over the course of a few nights so you can see them moving around. I don't think any of those small ones are going to be big enough to have a tail or anything interesting like that, but you know, comets are interesting, and you never know when one's going to go into outburst. So I'm going to throw in Aurora in the comets and meteors section. A few days back, we had some geomagnetic activity on the surface of the sun, which means we may be due for some auroral activity over the next few nights. No promises. I would go to spaceweather.com. They provide maps where aurora are expected and up-to-date forecasts, what you can expect on any given night. It wouldn't be my presentation if I didn't bring you a variable star. The one I've picked this month is a Z Andromeday. It's an interesting one because it's one of those fascinating doubles, a red giant and a white dwarf, this time surrounded by nebulosity. The red giant is an 11th magnitude. It's slight Mira-type variability. You know, it's an old red giant that's on its way out. It's pulsing as it ages and goes through all kinds of weird helium and carbon burning stuff in its core. But this one's interesting. Every 10 to 20 years, we get a 3 magnitude outburst, and this is probably as solar wind blowing off the red giant accumulates around the red dwarf. It might be exploding in the accretion disk. It might be exploding on the surface of the red dwarf. It's a mystery. So this is one where observations are useful, especially if you're there when the outburst comes. And nobody really knows when the outburst is going to come, so it's up to us to get out there and observe it as much as possible. When we catch the outburst, we get online, we report it, and the scientists who care about this particular star are going to be grateful to you for finding it and alerting them. AAVSO.org, the American Association of Variable Star Observers, is the place to go for details, for maps, for charts with comparison stars so you can tell when it's brighter or when it's not. I advise everybody to do that. It's a fun bit of science that is not that difficult to do. Throwing in an extra variable star, because this one's still relevant, Supernova 2023 IXF, or as we know it better, the supernova in M101. It's fading. It's down to 14.5 magnitude, and it's declining. But if you've got a larger telescope, I'm thinking 16 inches or larger, you can still make observations. If you have a photometer, you can make observations. Once again, the AFVSO is the place to go for all the necessary details. So there's always stuff coming up in spaceflight. I don't know if we have any disclaimer about personal opinions on things, so I will just observe that SpaceX is testing Starship potentially on Friday and say nothing more. PLD Space from Spain is aiming for a first launch of a suborbital rocket. This is Spain's first step into the business of space. Their previous launch was scrubbed because there was a danger of brush fires. Soyuz MS-24 is going to the ISS on September 15th. If you've ever seen the spaceship catching up to the ISS, it's quite spectacular. Chandrayaan-3 has not been designed to survive the lunar night. It may or may not come back once daylight returns to its location. So let's watch and see what happens. I personally hope it does come back. I think it's a pretty cool lander and rover. The ISS will be passing overhead in the mornings until September 10th. Evening passes from September 12th until our next meeting. Heavensabove.com will give precise times and locations. I don't even want to guess because I could find the time for right here, and 20 miles away from here, it would be totally out to lunch. So I'll leave that for you guys to do on your own. And the JWST. Keep an eye out for results coming from that. This is a spectacular picture of Supernova 1987A. This is all in infrared, and the structure in there is just insane. I've never seen anything like that. So this is something that we're going to have to be watching for our spaceflight highlights for the next few years. And if you think that's spectacular, we've got this one of the center of M51, also in infrared. I mean, I've never seen anything like that. I'm going to make that the wallpaper on my phone. That's so cool. So what if it's cloudy or Lower Decks is on? Because I know I really want to see the next season. Zooniverse.org has all kinds of citizen science projects where you can sit at your computer and do all the data analysis that requires human brains, and the scientists need lots of people to get out there and do the work for them. JWST data is now in Galaxy Zoo, where you get an image of a galaxy and are asked to classify it. We have the Catalina Sky Survey, asteroid hunting. Meerkat, analyzing radio bursts from space. And kilonova seekers. Kilonovas are pretty wild. They're the explosion that comes when you get a collision between either neutron stars, black holes, or a combination of the two. So that's something that everybody should keep an eye on. Now, I know everybody is wondering, Andy, you always talk about the double star that you put out there for Blake Nancaro. For those who hadn't heard, Blake Nancaro recently passed away. And I wanted to do something to remember my friend and my double star mentor. So on his behalf, I've picked the best double star in the sky, Delta Cygni, better known as Albireo, 2.9 and 6.3 magnitude pair in Cygnus. They're bright and easy to split. They're well separated and absolutely beautiful colors. One is clearly gold, one is clearly blue. The contrast is spectacular. I think it's the most beautiful double in the sky. And I've picked this because it's easy to find and it's spectacular. And I would like everybody who gets a chance to go out and have a look for it. It's the head of the constellation Cygnus, or the foot of the Northern Cross, however you like to slice it. So go and have a look at it and think of our friend Blake. Are there questions, corrections? You can contact me at andybeaton@gmail.com or contact me on any of those social media places. And thanks very much, and let's have clear skies.
Thank you very much, Andy. Great presentation as always.
Thank you.
Do we have any questions here in the room for Blake? No questions?
Yeah.
Online? We have an online question? You have a question? Oh, I thought you told me somebody online had a question. Okay, here we go.
Oh, thanks. Hi, Andy. This might seem like a unrelated question, but I was noticing like Hurricane Idalia, and it was a spiral hurricane with an eye in the center. And it strikes me as being similar to the spiral galaxies with an eye or a black hole in the center. And I was wondering if the configurations of the hurricanes and the spiral galaxies might have an explanation in the law of physics.
I think the answer is yes, and I think the answer comes down to fractal mathematics. Nature likes to repeat patterns, and those patterns often come down to mathematical formulas. I don't know the exact mechanism of spiral galaxies or hurricanes, but it's clearly related. You know, there's got to be some kind of physical phenomena that's causing them to organize themselves in that way.
Okay, let's go online. Emma, do we have any questions?
No, we didn't get any questions from online.
Mentioned daytime meteors?
Yes. Daytime meteors are observable, and this is a cool trick you can do, is dig out your radio, tune it to a radio station that you don't get, something, I don't know, say in Montreal or Pittsburgh or something, and wait for the meteor to pass overhead. The ionization trail it leaves in the upper atmosphere will reflect those radio signals, and you'll get a few seconds of music or talk from that far distant station.
AM or FM?
I've always done it with AM, but I've also heard it done with shortwave, so it may be bandwidth independent.
Question here.
I was just going to make another, more of a comment than a question, but one thing you can do is look up meteors live on the internet. I believe it uses a transmitter that's located near Timmins, Wyerton, or someplace like that. And there is a receiver that's beyond the horizon for it, down in Virginia somewhere. But when a meteor ionizes a path in the upper atmosphere, it can pick up that signal from Northern Ontario, and it makes a really neat sound that you can listen to, in this case on YouTube, if you look up Meteors Live.
Okay, meteors live, that's exactly the words we want to search for?
I think the website is meteorslive.com, but it's essentially something that points to the YouTube channel.
I will check that out, thank you.
Also, we have the total eclipse coming up in 214 days, so everyone make plans.
That was out of the scope of my talk for tonight, but yes, we should keep that in mind.
All right, any more questions? We're good? All right. Thanks again, Andy.